from PIY paint. Paint it yourself. Today we're going to talk about our PIY paint chalk powder. What the great thing is about our PIY paint chalk powder is that it is the exact additive that we use to create all the beautiful, rich, creamy PIY paint products. With the paint chalk powder, you can make a little, you can make a lot. It's really economical for paint for profit because you can buy gallons and make up your, a variety of colors. You can buy mist tints or craft paints. It's a perfect additive for doing any of the chalk style paint projects that you want at home. One of the reasons that I loved the PIY paint chalk powder, and sort of one of the reasons that it got created, is that I was always doing things. I paint with a lot of barn board, and you can sort of tell by my tabletop here that I love the barn board. But I was finding I had to fill a lot of holes. I had to fill cracks and gaps. So I would run up and grab some of the additive from my brother-in-law's and bring it back down, and I would make my paint thicker. And I could actually make my paint thick enough that I could fill cracks, I could fill holes with the same color I was painting with. So I didn't have to go back and then fill all the cracks and fill all the holes and then go back, sand them over with drywall mud, sand them over, and then paint over top. It just worked that I could just do my exact same color, save myself time and money. Another thing that I love to do is raise stencils. So I can make the paint, which I'm going to do for you now. I can make any color paint a raised stencil. So that way I don't have to go back. I know it's great, and I have done it using drywall mud or plaster to make raised stencils, but then I have to go back over and I have to paint that stencil in the color of my choice. This way I can do my raised stencils in any color paint that I want. So I'm going to just start here. Because I can, I'm just going to show you how, if you're at home and you've bought another brand of paint, or and you just water-based latex paint, and I'm going to jump in here and say you don't want to buy, every paint has some primer, but you don't want to buy a paint that actually paint and primer. You want to just sort of try and stick away from primer because it is a thickener as well. So you're going to take your paint color of choice, and it is 1 cup of paint to 3 tablespoons of the powder. That is to get the PIY consistency. So you don't need to go all crazy here and make sure that everything is measured to perfection, because, you know, just like with any baking or anything, right? It's gonna be a cup, it's gonna be a cup. And I'm not quite a cup because I'm almost out of that paint. So I am going to, now you're just gonna take your powder. This powder is not toxic, so I'm going, if it was a full cup, I would do the 3, but also 2. I'm showing you it doesn't need to be a full cup, and then let's do 2 and a little bit. So I am going to just stir it in. It almost reminds me of like cornstarch. Like it just goes in like nothing. So now the paint is a perfect consistency. So now if I wanted to paint jars or something that painting glass, or even if I'm painting like a rough board and I don't want to do 2 coats, I want to do a little bit of a thicker paint, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add some more powder. So I'm going to make it thicker. And I don't know, this is the way I bake at home too. I don't know if your husband says that you're kind of messy, but oh, I can hear that little chewing in the background behind the producer. That's the rabbit chewing on something. So again, now I'm getting thicker. So I can use this to paint jars. It just literally dissolves. Like it is blended. This additives are blended so that it's there. You'll never find a lump. It's like making gravy. Well, I don't know. My sister's gravy is pretty lumpy. So now I want it thicker, because now for this thickness, again, we're real, right? We make, it's like when you're baking, I don't know, some people can have that absolutely perfectly clean, spotless kitchen when they're baking. I'm not one of them. So now we are like icing, like a thick icing. So now this would be where I would use it on, you know, the new roller techniques. Jennifer Weber Ferguson, Artistic Painting Studio, shows with those beautiful rollers. This would be the consistency that I would actually cover my project, and then I would negatively roll through, and that's the consistency I would use for that. So now, that's a little bit too thin for what I want. Oh well. I do find, now I'm going to be doing the raised stencil. So the raised stencil is where I actually want the consistency of drywall mud. And you can, if you make too much, you can keep it. I just put it in a sealed Tupperware container and I can keep it. So now you can see I have really nice, thick. Okay, so now I'm going to take my stencil here, and I have taken my cutting edge stencil and cut it so that it's just fits on my board just a little bit better. Now I am going to take and I am using the white right now because I want to do a different technique on this, but again, this can be done in any color you want. So I am going to take it and I am going to put it on my stencil. You really want to hold your stencil down at the very beginning. Once you get going, I don't know, what would you call this, Cindy? Mixture? Goo? Huh? What would you call this? Wood icing? Oh no, I don't think that's a word. But, I don't know, stencil additive. Goo. I don't know, I think my sister's fallen asleep over there or something. She's not listening, not answering me. You may find sometimes that you want to do it a little thicker, you want to do it a little thinner. It's as with any techniques. It takes practice and you need to play and find out what works for you, because that's what's important. What works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. It does not take a long time to do this. Now if you were going to do a wall or something, that's definitely going to be a little bit more time consuming, but I tell you, it's worth it in the end. This is quite a intricate stencil that I'm doing here. It's roses and flowers and pretty things. Leaves, I think, roses and leaves. And then I'm gonna sort of make I want kind of like a rusty color on this for something I'm doing in Georgia. What's Georgia? Georgia is my house, my little house. If you don't follow our page actually, Miss Georgia's Style, you might want to hop over there because we do really neat techniques with the PIY products, as well as a whole pile of other products. And I know we're just in the process of launching a new YouTube channel in January with a collection of some Miss Georgia stuff. So if you like this home decor, and you probably really want to check that out, because we spend a lot of time over there too. So I want to have a lot of depth, so that I want some raised a little higher, and I want my powder, it's getting a little thick. I could add a little bit of water to it, but for what I'm going to do, I really want my powder different consistencies and different thicknesses. So now, I don't know if you can see how that looks, that there's, you can see that there's some layers in that. So I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to put it here. So now you can see that is really nice and thick. Can you see that, Cindy? It's really, really nice and thick. It's got like amazing depth to it. I am actually going to drop this into my oven on a really low temperature, and we'll be back in a minute, and I'm going to show you how you can paint it yourself. So we're back. Now, the producer and my sister Cindy said maybe I should clarify. When I said I was going to put it in the oven, I don't have a lot of patience. So in order to make things dry a little bit quicker, I turn my oven on to 150, and when it gets to the actual 150 point, I turn it off, open the door, and then I set my projects in there with the door open. So I don't actually bake my projects. I need to clarify that so that we don't get a lawsuit going. So now I am so excited to show you this because it is hard. It is absolutely gorgeous. So what I want to do with this is I want to make sort of like a rusty, I like the bronze, the copper turquoise combinations. So I am going to do this with a wash of the turquoise, which is called Peacock. A wash is using paint and water mixed together. So it is just, and there is no real recipe for this. You want it darker, you add more paint. You want it lighter, you add more water. Again, like with any of the PIY paint products, everything is so simple. You can't really make mistakes. So I'm going to add the water, and so you just add your water. Now sometimes I leave my paint a little bit thick up here because I like to have like sort of a little bit of a little bit of different textures. I don't want it all exactly the same. So this way I can make it fairly watery, but I can also dip into the thicker as I'm going around doing my wash. I get a variation. So now I am going to do this. And let's make it a little tiny bit. Sin?
Yeah?
I don't know whether you can get me a thing of paper towel, but actually I have some here that I can use. And I'm going into the paint and I'm going into the water. Cindy doesn't like to be on camera. Cindy, do you want to put that in the... Isn't that fun? Just throw it. Just throw it.
Do you want a piece of it?
I want it dampened up. Now this is just one of those little boards at the dollar store. Oh man, am I ever messy. Are you messy, painter? I sure am. You just see the little board, bling! Because I want to take a little bit of this off. You probably can't see it, but my little rabbit, I have a pet rabbit, his name is Duke, and he is just spinning out on the floor under my feet here. So see, I added water there. It's a good thing I'm painting on this piece of plastic. It's actually what I'm painting on is the case, the packaging for the stencil. He is just having a blast under there.
Now do you have to rub easy so you don't rub your
Stuff off?
stuff off?
As you rub as much or as little as you want. See, if I rub harder, I can take a lot off.
No, I mean the raised stencil part.
Oh, it's all just whatever you want.
It's pretty dry that it's not going to rub off, is what I mean.
Oh, you mean the stencil itself? Oh no, it won't rub off. No, the stencil should never rub off. And you see, as you're going, it's just sort of making itself work, right? we want to sort of define that where the most of the peacock, this is peacock, this color. Okay, so that is that. So now, let's do something else really neat. Oh, well, you can tell that's not a good quality brush. Now, I don't worry about, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit of that color in there. I love the metallics. The metallics are so nice and thick. I love the PIY metallics. So again, now, I just want to come, because I just want to add a little tiny bit of some rust to it. Paper Towelson. We want to just soften it up just a tad.
Wet again?
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm sort of just going into that, into that. Once again, what we really want to stress on the Paint It Yourself is that it literally is about having fun. That is the most important thing of the Paint It Yourself. That's why that's sort of what we gauge every product that we add into the Paint It Yourself family, that it is simple and very easy to use. You can see here, I'm just basically putting paint on. I'm making a mess. There's not really, I'm going from water, I'm going into paint. And then I'm going to take my rag and I'm going to take some of it off so that I'm going to keep, I want to keep the turquoise colors, but I also want to add some sort of the rusty colors on top of it. So now I would just let this dry and then I would put the sealer on it. So now I'm going to just finish up the project with our sealer. I want our project to stay nice, and I painted my sides because my sister said to. So I'm just putting the sealer on as the final touch, and my raised stencil using the PIY paint chalk powder is finished. You can use these stencils on anything. You can do a whole wall of raised stencils. You can do the front of drawer fronts on dressers. I mean, it's endless. Anywhere that you can do a stencil, you can do a raised stencil. So I think we are good. We will be back with a shot of the finished project. And so thank you for joining us and learning how you can paint it yourself.